Hello everyone, I'm Louise Kwok, a Year 2 business student majoring in economics and finance from the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. The following panel session is a fascinating one, as we are going to explore the career opportunities of technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship in finance. Ever since the fintech revolution, companies are stepping in and using technology to do things better, faster, and cheaper. Yet, it's just the beginning. New startups are emerging every day, and I'm sure everyone here is excited to know more on this aspect. May I now introduce the speakers to you. First, we'll have Mr. Andrew Wei, Senior Partner of Hong Kong as well as Vice Chairman of KPMG China, KPMG. Mr. Wei has been servicing listed companies, public bodies, investment funds, and MNCs in Hong Kong, Asia, and internationally for over 25 years. In his capacity as a representative of the global leadership team of KPMG's Belt and Road Center of Excellence, Mr. Wei is leading KPMG's efforts in establishing greater linkages between Belt and Road governments and interested Chinese and international private investment partners. We specially invited Mr. Wei to share his valuable career experience and views on prospects of working in the financial services, in particular on how new technology has changed the world of finance today. Mr. Wei, please. Next, we have Mr. Alvin Kwok, co-founder and chief executive officer of One Degree. One Degree is a technology company, the first digital insurer candidate in Hong Kong that embraces digital process end-to-end. It also crosses over with leading global partners in insurance and health and piloting new technology and experience. Mr. Kwok was the Asia-Pacific head of emerging technology and Taiwan head of research at JP Morgan. Under his leadership, JPM's Asia hardware team has been consistently rated in the Institutional Investors Pool, Financial Times, StarMine, and Asian Money. He was the co-founder and chief business officer of an augmented reality startup. Mr. Kwok holds a MA degree in social science and a BA degree in economics, both from the University of Chicago. Last but not least, we'll have Mr. Lap Man, co-founder and managing partner of Beyond Ventures. Beyond Ventures is a Hong Kong-based venture capital fund established by several serial entrepreneurs from Hong Kong together with eGarden Ventures, a venture capital company focusing on technology, media, and telecom. Mr. Mann was honored in the Capital Leaders of Excellence Award scheme in 2009 and appeared 2 years later in the Excellence in Achievement of World Chinese Youth Entrepreneurs rankings, a winner in the 2012 Asia Pacific Entrepreneurship Award and the EY Entrepreneur of the Year China Award in 2016. Mr. Mann graduated from the Chinese University of Hong Kong with a bachelor's degree in Japanese studies and became interested in the internet during his exchange program at Japan's Sophia University in 1993. And we are most delighted to have Mr. Stephen Wong, Deputy Executive Director and Head of Public Policy Research of Our Hong Kong Foundations. He's also a member of the FSDC to chair this panel. May I now invite Mr. Stephen Wong to come on stage to share his panel discussion, and let's start the discussion by giving our speakers a big round of applause.
So I'm very honored and very happy to see all of you, and honored to have the panel, distinguished panel, which really have very different backgrounds. So without further ado, maybe I invite each of you to share for 5 minutes of what you do, your own career path, and so that we get to know you more. Andrew?
Stephen, thanks very much. I'm an accountant, which normally people think that doesn't sound very interesting, but I've had an interesting life. And I became a chartered accountant in the UK. I trained in London because in those days, if you didn't know what to do and you weren't certain what to do, you could always get a job as an accountant. Yeah, you didn't have to be smart either. There were so many jobs. And also, in those days, there weren't things like MBAs, really. So if you wanted to get into a world of business, you did accountancy. But my main motivation, actually, was I really wanted to travel and see the world. And I come from a Scottish tradition, and the Scots will do anything for their country except to actually live in Scotland. And my father said, you've got to get a training. And he said it could be a lawyer, it could be accountancy, it could be a sausage maker. Whatever, you've got to have a skill. So I decided to become an accountant. I'm not sure what my father would have said if I'd been a sausage maker. But so then, after qualifying, I came to Hong Kong. And I've been in Hong Kong for 26 years. Very interesting. I found life in London too stressful and wanted to move to a quieter place. And I was going to go to Canada. I think Diana was in Canada. I was going to go to Canada. But at the time, the firm I was with, a firm called Touche Ross, were merging. And they said my secondment to Canada may happen tomorrow or never. So it sounded like never. And on the underground back home, I saw an advertisement for Pete Marwick in Hong Kong. And, you know, this is the capricious nature of life. I saw that, applied, and within 5 weeks, we're in Hong Kong. I'm still waiting to go to Canada. But just in terms of life as an accountant, I honestly don't think of myself as an accountant. These days, the very big accountancy firms are really massive advisory organizations. And it's about helping organizations, helping clients. But people have a professional training. It could be tax, it could be accounting, it could be corporate finance. But the main point I want to make is I'm a great believer in having a qualification. And it doesn't really matter, going back to what my father said, what it is. But the benefit of having professional qualification in finance is it always keeps your options open, Stephen. And throughout one's career, one can always think, do I leave like Laura did? She was a lawyer, she left, and then came back. With a professional qualification, you have that flexibility.
But since our topic today is also about technology, how does technology change your firm, change you? Did you pick up that skill, or?
Our firm is totally different to 3 years ago. Technology has totally transformed us. I think if you look at the world of business, you've got 3 big themes, Stephen. You've got capital, you've got customer, and then you've got technology. And it goes through every aspect of the business world and every aspect. So we've had to learn, we've had to embrace it, we've had to be hugely agile, because technology really, you cannot see it as just being someone else's responsibility. Everybody has to embrace it and understand it and bring it to the center of the organization. So in many ways you could say KPMG, where I work now, is a platform and a brand, actually. And I think the previous panelists talked about big data. It's about data, it's about it really is about how new business models are coming in. So it's totally different to 3 years ago.
Interesting. Alvin?
Thanks, Stephen. My background is I was with JP Morgan for almost 12 years, and I'm starting my second career as a fintech entrepreneur. In 12 years in JP Morgan, I was leading the Asia TMT research team, equity research. And then later on, I also lead the Taiwan equities and then also Taiwan bank operation as well. So in the 12 years, it's mostly related to equities, broking business, and I've really seen the ups and downs of the brokerage business. Now we are here in Hong Kong Exchange. I don't know how many of you noticed about it, that it's almost exactly 1 year ago. Hong Kong Exchange has closed the trading floor. So in the past, there was those people in red jackets shouting and screaming, what price do I want to buy? What price do I want to sell? That doesn't happen anymore. But you know what? That doesn't prevent the stock market trading volume going up a lot. Hong Kong Stock Exchange employ more people, right? But there's really a big need of transformation. I still remember in 2003, which is the first year that I joined investment banking. At that time, my previous firm, Credit Suisse, just started to launch DMA, direct market access. So at that time, there are lots of inertia that people say, hey, this is going to replace the jobs, right? But what really happened is that, you start to have a lot more new product offering, high frequency trading, and other things that start to come up, right? So, and I still remember when it was towards the later part of my career, going to a trading floor is completely quiet. So it is completely no accident to me that the trading floor turned out to be closed in the end. The reason why I left JP Morgan was that about 3 years ago, my mom was in late stage. So at that time, I took a sabbatical, and I go in and out of hospital a lot. And I still really remember one night, there was 10:30 p.m., there was a broadcast and say, people who have been in the emergency room since 3 p.m., please be patient. And I was like, why is it like this, right? And then, well, actually my family is quite fortunate because my sister is a medical doctor, and then I have the income level to pay for private care. But I have also seen a lot of the patients around me who basically are not so fortunate. And then when they want to do insurance claims, it is so difficult. So I really think something is wrong. And by the way, when I was in college days, I actually took actuarial exams. So, I mean, that is almost like connecting the dots.
One of those exams, right?
Exactly. But of course, I'm not going to pretend and say I know insurance because I have never worked in an insurance company. So what I did is I quit JP Morgan. I became a student again. I basically emailed a number of alumni who work in insurtech startup in US and say, hey, I want to come to Bay Area to visit you. Could you spend an hour with me? So I basically, that's really how I got the journey started and really try to learn the whole industry from zero.
So do you see that as a business opportunity, or just because you're passionate, because you went through that experience, that's why you choose InsurTech? Because there are other sort of fintech that you can choose to do.
Yeah, I think the reason why I do this is, one, I see there's a real impact that you can make to everybody's life on that. I think that's number one. Number two, also haven't gone through the cycle of the brokerage cycle, as I was talking about, the electronic trading. That really made me feel that, oh, wow, insurance is so behind. It's, well, I mean, well, that from stockbroking, well, telephone broking to electronic trading, well, now talking about insurance, it's also from agent broker, basically move into electronic purchase and claims of insurance. It's literally the same thing. And, you know, so why is it still stuck in almost in a stone age in terms of the entire processes? So that made me really curious on how to do it. And then, well, I get more and more into it, and then turned out to form the company back in about 2 years ago.
Right. Interesting. Okay.
My current title is Managing Partner of Beyond Ventures. It's a VC fund. That's and Alvin and Andrew, I just become into this financial industry in the last 2 years. Before that, in my 20-something years, I'm in tech. So I mean, it's from tech to financial industries. Okay, how I get into these industries? Actually, how I get into tech? I mean, I think most of them are college students, right? Okay. When I was still in college, when you asked me what should I do, my dad didn't tell me that you need to get a professional. Oh, he doesn't have time for telling me that. Okay. So I have no clue at all. What should I do? Okay. In university, my major is Japanese studies. So you can see that it's nothing related to tech, nothing related to finance, nothing. Okay. But tech do change me a lot. I remember that in my second year, in my major, I need to exchange to Japan. That's 94. I think most of you still really small when you are 94, okay? So I think none of you will know what's happening in 94. Actually, 94 to me is a really important year. Personally, I would say it's the dawn of internet, the beginning of the internet, okay? Oh, you guys still remember Yahoo, right? Soon, I think probably you've gone soon, okay? But Yahoo founded in 94, okay? And there's another company called Netscape founded in 94. Okay, I was in Japan that year. I witnessed that, oh, how come when I go into, with my PC, go on there, go into Yahoo, I see, wow, there's so many things. Actually, I think by that time, maybe just thinking about a couple 10 or 100,000 of entries. Compared to today's, what we see is just a peanut. But I was so amazing. Okay, so the first thing that tech changed me, okay? So when I come back, Just lucky, my brother wanted to start an ISP. Okay, so we start that. So we get into that industries. Okay, then in the next 20 something years, we keep on working on telecom, technology, TMT sectors. Okay, and luckily we are doing pretty well, and we are able to become. We start 2 companies, and all these 2 companies become the leader in our separate field. Okay, and we expand our business all over Greater China. And in 2014, so we exit the second business nicely. Okay, by that time, 2014, there's a lot of huge internet companies around the world, and China is already got a lot of big internet companies already. Okay, so I still remember in '94 when we celebrate that we exit our ventures. My shareholders told me that, hey, Lab, how come we don't see successful internet companies in Hong Kong? Why? I mean, we see that a lot of good Hong Kong, we serve a lot of good internet companies, financial industries, we serve a lot. But how come we don't have one? Okay, so we start having an idea that, oh, okay, and then we go on discuss and then say, hey, we are in the financial industries, we have accountants, we have insurance companies, we have the law firm, we have really good stock exchange, we have PEs. But somehow, in China, in US, we got a lot of VCs, but somehow we don't see much VCs in Hong Kong, okay? Just for your sake of information, when people are talking about investments, there's a lot of stage, okay? At the really beginning, we have some angels. Angels usually individuals, so they invest by their own monies, okay. And then come to the next stage, we have VC, venture capitalists or venture capitals, okay. They help a company to get more capitals and grow. And to the later stage, there will be a PE firm, private equity. They will invest much bigger amount, okay. Usually, you can say venture capital invest in $500,000 US to say about $100 million US. Venture capitalists talking about $50 million US to a couple hundreds. Okay, so we have different stages. Okay, so we start thinking, oh, somehow it seems Hong Kong is missing that part that support the really early stage of the tech companies. Okay, we think about my 2 previous companies. We do. In year 2000, we do have a lot of VCs, but somehow when .com burst, all of them gone, and none of them create any successful stories. And I think Hong Kong people are smart, so when you got burned, so think that, oh, we maybe do something that we still strong at, good at, like the professional service, okay? So we really think about that, okay? Then we take quite a long time for us to think that. Okay, 2 years later, we start to decide to create our own venture capital firm, Beyond Ventures. So we start that. It's a $100 million US fund. We start that in last September, and now we become one of the 5 Hong Kong government qualified investment partners. Because we believe that we are the only 2 funds in Hong Kong clearly state that we are 100% invest in Hong Kong related startups. There's only 2, okay? We believe that in order to promote Hong Kong tech startups, we need home-based fund. Home-based fund means the fund really understand the environment in Hong Kong, understand the difficulties and the problem and the opportunities for Hong Kong tech companies. And most important, we are not just the firm, but when we start doing investments, we are also training up the next generation of local born venture capitalists. Yeah,
great.
So that's our status.
Andrew, I want to ask you, if a high school mentee come to you, would you suggest him to do either computer coding or accounting, auditing? Which skill he should pick up? Since we are on tech panel, so I might as well ask a question.
Neither. I would encourage people to really push mathematics, sciences, and not necessarily coding, but this data science is the way forward. We've got 300 people in Nanjing at our Digital Ignition Center. Oh, wow. And their job, Stephen, is basically finding solutions for clients. Everything from how data is being controlled, how it's being cleansed, how it's being presented. And I think it's the data science side which is the key. I don't think it's much coding. The advantage of doing accountancy, I wouldn't, I'm not going to get any round of applause for recommending auditing, I can tell you that. But the advantage of that is for 3 years as you train, you see many, many different companies in the finance industry. That's the advantage of it. Okay. And you get the exposure to it, Stephen.
Okay, thank you. And Alvin, you've been in banking for 12 years before you do startup. Do you encourage college students to do the startup right away, or do you encourage them to work like a real job, not a real job, but not work with a big institution for a while before they do a startup?
Great question. Well, personally, I don't think there's any issue for people to join a financial institution, banks, and large company first. I don't have an issue. And I have to say the difference is very big. Well, you guys are in Central right now. If you go 1 block over to Chater House, it was where my previous office is. What you see downstairs there is Armani Floral, Armani Chocolate, Armani Bar. But when we first get started, we actually start in a 60-year-old industrial building in Kowloon Bay. There was 500 square feet. And so, I mean, the lifestyle and all those things are obviously different, right? However, I think this one thing that, well, so in our team, we did attract a lot of young people in the team. And I think the one thing that is really great about working in a startup is that it is a very flat organization structure, right? So like what I was just talking about, is in a 500 square feet apartment. So you literally cannot partition it into different rooms, right? So even as a fresh grad, you are sitting in the same room as the CEO and the founding team members. Now we have expanded to a 30-people team. We are in a much better place, but still, we only got one room. And that room is the meeting room that is for everyone. So still everyone is sitting together. And I think also when it comes to the communication, in our team, I would say that most of the creative ideas actually come in from the 20s. The people who are at 30s really are sharing like the practical side of things, the risk management side of things. But the organization structure is so flat. So what I would say is that if you really have a lot of ideas and really want to be able to get it across, startup obviously is one thing that one choice. Yep. But if you really want to get the training, I think going through the financial institution is not a bad idea either.
Yeah. Lab, some people mention that it's hard to get. There are not a lot of VCs or angel funds in Hong Kong because of lack of projects. Can you describe a bit of the status of, particularly for fintech companies, what is the sort of ecosystem? Have you been seeing enough pipeline, good companies that you are willing to invest in? What is sort of the status there?
I think the situation, what you just said, before we become a VC, actually we also heard that a lot, okay? But I think the situation improved a lot in the last 2 years. Yeah, we see a lot of organizations like Cyberport, Science Park, they have a lot of programs to help startups. And also, we also see a lot of co-working space, incubators, that help a lot, okay? And we see many different companies, organizations, they also have their own accelerators. Just like FinTech, we got different banks, different insurance company creating a lot of accelerators, okay? So I think the pilot, now is good. But I will think that most of the projects still in early stage, and that need, just like a baby, in the 6 months, they need a lot of change, okay? And they need a lot of help on that, no matter in the first anchor tenant, to tell the anchor customers to tell them that how to polish the product, or some mentor to help them to say, okay, which direction, go to business, go to consumer directly. A lot of major decisions they probably need to finalize and make in the first few months. Yeah.
Okay. I will ask the last question and then I'll open up to the floor so that we can take 1 or 2 questions. My last question is, can you highlight one character trait or a skill that you think you, in the past, in your career, most of the successful people in your area have demonstrated, either a skill or sort of personality or character traits that you credit them for being successful in your area? Anyone first?
Maybe I can go first. It's 2 things, Stephen. I think the first thing is resilience. Life does go up and down. As I said earlier, life is capricious. Opportunities offer themselves. Other times, opportunities just go. All of us have had ups and downs in our careers. And I think it was very well said by Laura and also Lawrence at the beginning about how you can't really manage a career. But the character trait I see in everybody I know who's successful is humility. And the suppression of ego is a really important thing. And maybe about 15 years ago I made a big change. And it's not all about the individual. It's about something bigger. It's about the team. Is one doing the right thing for the people one's working for?
I have heard a lot of talk about teamwork, but is it true? Is it real?
What's that?
For teamwork, everybody talks about teamwork.
Yeah.
But you're saying that successful people.
I think humility. What do I mean by that? I mean, you're thinking not about yourself. You're thinking about something bigger. You're thinking about how you're making a contribution, and not how things appear for you. And the best people with the most successful careers are the people who've tried to do the right thing in the right way, and then opportunity has landed. You've got to believe in this virtuous circle, that if you try and live and drive things the right way, what goes around comes around.
That's very, very interesting. Alvin?
I would say athlete and sportsman quality.
Okay.
So that actually entails what Andrew was saying. For example, teamwork is one of them. But also, I think the second piece is you keep pushing your own limits to get better, right?
Yep.
And then you are also being very fair. You earn it, right? So I think there's no shortcut to a lot of things. You really just have to keep practice, and also set a high standard for yourself. And I think that is really what athletes and sportsmen are
Interesting.
doing.
Lab?
Yeah, I'm a young VC, so I can't comment on VC, but I'm 20 years entrepreneur. So I can say what I see most of the successful entrepreneurs, they have a few same characteristics. First, all of them are really strong-minded. They're really passionate on certain things. Most of them, when they start, they probably think, they just like that, they want to change that, they want to think that that's something that they need to change, okay? So they're passionate on that. And they still really focus on make sure no matter obstacles and all the problems, they stay focused, solve all the obstacles, and on the way they to success, there will be a lot of problems and chance that they have facing a lot of critical moments. Okay, so the persistence. Okay, passion, focus, persistence. Usually the 3 characters I find in most successful entrepreneur.
Great. Okay, any questions that you would like to ask our distinguished panels? Yes, the one in front.
With today's technology and a lot of data-driven models, how do you balance between using your intuition and using the data-driven decision-making? Thank you.
Okay. Do you mind if I, as probably the least technological person here, it's a very good question. We did a chief executive survey worldwide. And what came out of it was fascinating, that still CEOs are making decisions often on intuition and not backed by data. So I think it's a brilliant question. And the CEOs recognize that they need to move away move more towards more data-supported decision making. So I think it's a really good question, but you don't want to lose that element of human judgment as well. But how can data be marshaled, packaged, and used to help decision making? We're just at the beginning of that, and artificial intelligence can help hugely in decision making.
Okay. Anyone else? Data science versus intuition?
Well, I think everything needs to start from creativity and intuition, right? But you actually backtest it with data.
Okay.
And you need to be honest to yourself with the data showing the result.
Recently, because due to the decrease on the computing powers, cow and all the things, before there's a lot of model, you really hard to use. So nowadays, that's why AI recently come up a lot, because the computing powers, the networks, the cow, everything make it happen. But fundamentally, just like we see, in last year, we're facing one question, ICO. We should look at a number of projects. None of the VC invest. But turn around, they got 50 million US from ICO. So as a VC, we always ask, is it something that going wrong in our side? Yeah. But recently, we think that everything, no matter what's the technology, the principle of the world working is still the same. So we just make sure that the technology is just a tool, but the way the world works is always the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes, the one in the back. Yes, please.
Thank you very much for sharing. And I'm Zoe, a recent graduate from HKUST. I believe a lot of us here we might not go into startup field the first day of our career. So would you mind to share more about how did you shift from like more of a finance, accounting background, economics background into technology, into innovation throughout your career path? Like the progress, how did you make this shift? Like in first day when we join a financial institute might be a very like administrative level of work, might be a management trainee. How do we move up and become like the head of emerging technologies, etc., like things like that?
Can I
Thank
add
you.
also to that is one, how is you take courage to make the jump, right? And second, what sort of skill set you accumulate along the way, so that when they know they have to jump, they will jump with the right skill set. Yes.
Okay, because I see a lot of projects, and actually quite a lot of projects, maybe 1/3 to half of them, the background is from finance. Okay, they start doing something tech, but many of them start from finance. Okay, I think start from finance, there's one major advantage. Okay, just think about when you start a project, you need people to support you, at least fundings. Okay, so there's no way when you have no experience, have no track record, you go for VCs. I think it's really hard. Okay, the first thing you go to is your friend, your boss. Yeah, my first startup, we got a support from my ex-boss, my brother's ex-boss. Okay, because they know you well. So I see that's why I just wondering, wow, how come there's so many smart guys from finance field, just like this one, go to doing startup? Okay, I think one of the reasons is they accumulate quite a lot of connections. They can have the first supporter for them. Yeah.
Rich friends, right? Rich friends is always good.
Yeah, I would encourage everyone, even though you're not going to be a coder, go and learn Python. I think Python is going to be the new language. Python, yeah. It's going to be the new universal language. I think it's actually not going to be English, it's not going to be...
Can I say a little bit more on that? Okay. I would say try to learn some coding. Coding means don't get afraid of coding, because they said Python, there's another thing called PyTorch that's coming up. So there's always new things. Just get yourself, don't afraid of coding, don't afraid of programming. That's really important, because all the new things, the AI is all about, you understand how can you control the systems.
So Lab, as a Japanese major in university, where did you pick up the coding?
I'm a little bit lucky. I got my first computer that's Apple II Plus. Apple II Plus, we don't have hard disk. We use cassette to do that. So we witnessed that. So when I go to Japan, it's pretty boring, actually. When you go to overseas, okay. So I just go to the, because I have that experience. That's important because I don't afraid of using prompts. I don't need a graphical interface. I just go to the computer room, open the computer. We use Unix by that time. Unix means you need to type in all the commands. You cannot just use mouse to kick and drop and kick and drop. Yeah, okay. So that's why I say just make sure you don't afraid of the machine. Don't afraid of communicate with the machine. Yeah.
So you don't need to be a scientist before you learn coding. Yes, Andrew.
Stephen, I think it's a great question. In fact, we have a lot of people joining us who went straight from university into startups and have now come to work in an advisory capacity and say they wish they'd done it the other way around and had just got a whole lot of years' experience in this is one of the best finance markets in the world, right? The opportunity to learn and grow over a 3, 4 year, 5 year period after graduating, build up the network, as you say, build up the skill set. One has to have the skill to run a startup and the experience. And my advice would be to get a good grounding and a good foundation. It could be in a big investment bank, it could be in a VC house, it could be in a consultancy firm, but get that skill first. And then one can move with more confidence into the startup. That would be my advice.
Great. Time's up. Thanks so much for our distinguished panelists. Thank you.